What's the most dangerous place in your country? Here in Brazil, we have the Isle de Queima de Grande, or Snake Island as it became better known. It is the place with the highest concentration of venomous snakes in the world, and is considered by some people as one of the deadliest islands known. Norway, probably Svalbard, where you could get lost or get eaten by a polar bear. I would say the various mountain trails that appeal to Norwegians and tourists. So many people hike these trails in remote parts of the country without proper equipment and knowledge. My girlfriend is an experienced mountain hiker and told me of an instance where she was walking a trail with a friend where they met a family. My girlfriend and her friend were both in proper clothes that are water and wind resistant. They wore good hiking boots and were carrying backpacks with equipment like maps, compass, provisions, tools, etc. The family they met were foreign tourists, a couple with 3 kids. The kids ranged from 6 years old to an infant that was no more than 9 months old. They were all wearing shorts, t-shirt and simple shoes. I think the wife was even wearing flip-flops. On this specific trail they were basically wandering from cabin to cabin. These cabins are spread across the trail and managed by a tourism association. They provide overnight accommodation and meals for hikers. In many cases it is a full day's hike from cabin to cabin. And it is exactly on one of these hikes that this family was going on. They were clearly unprepared for this trip and had to be airlifted out by an emergency helicopter. What most people aren't aware of is that death is not off the table in these circumstances. People might end up in a spot of bad weather, like rain or snow even in mid-July, or they deviate from the path and injure themselves, or die from exposure or falling. Having tried some of the touristic trails in Norway, the level of gear some try to walk in is simply amazing. Pre-Castellan comes to mind as one of those. When went hiking there I tried to start as early as possible to avoid the crowds, and it's not a very hard hike, but the weather shifts quickly, and I'm glad that I always prepare and wear proper gear. When walking back, meeting all the tourists was a minor shock. Some people walked in full leather motorcycle gear, flip-flops, high heels, no water or food whatsoever. One group stopped us to ask for directions. You can barely go wrong as there's a lot of people to follow. After having walked about 10% of the distance, they were absolutely exhausted and asked if it's close to get to the cliff. We suggested maybe they should turn around as they had barely even left the parking. One part of me is so happy that people want to get out. Another is frustrated that people don't plan ahead. When skiing in Japan I was told that if you get stuck in the canyon, we will pick you up with a helicopter, but you'll be invoiced, as a lot of Australian tourists apparently wanted to backcountry and instead got stuck in canyons. Maybe something to copy for Norway. And for anyone going hiking, have a look at the Norwegian Fjellvettreglen, the Norwegian mountain code, as hiking is immensely popular there. I mean, have you seen how beautiful it is? This is an excellent basis for anyone heading into the mountains or just hiking in your backyard. Wherever you are, plan your trip and inform others about the route you have selected. Adapt the planned routes according to ability and conditions. Pay attention to the weather and the avalanche warnings. Be prepared for bad weather and frost. Even on short trips, bring the necessary equipment so you can help yourself and others. Choose safe routes. Recognize avalanche terrain and unsafe ice. Use a map and a compass. Always know where you are. In the eastern part of Kazakhstan, there is a place, Dead Lake. It is small in size, surrounded by beautiful scenery, far from residential buildings, but it has a bad reputation. People drown in the lake almost every year. Locals try to bypass this strange place, which attracts tourists. The water in the Dead Lake, even in the summer heat, is simply icy. There are no fish, no algae, trees along the shore do not grow, and even mosquitoes. Divers who decided to dive say, in a couple of minutes they catch their breath. There is not enough air, for some unknown reason. Probably rural Moldova in Romania, of the ghetto in Bucharest at night. Ferentory, it's a pretty safe country. I mean, there is a small chance that someone will pickpocket you. Never happened in almost 25 years, but no one is going to go stab or shoot titty on you. Moldovan here, from the other side of the river. Nowadays the Republic of Moldova, so arguably more dangerous villages, can confirm what my neighbor said above. 99% chance you can walk outside at night in any village and be fine. especially as a tourist. You might get heckled or run into some drunk guys if you pass the local bars, but otherwise it's not more dangerous than your average place. Avoid areas with nightclubs and definitely don't go clubbing alone in villages. In cities it's fine, as long as you don't piss off the wrong people. As a general rule, maybe stick to just Chisinau and avoid Balti city in the north and the Transnistrian region. Not sure who this is for, as I would assume that if you're visiting the Republic of Moldova, you know someone local. Gary, Indiana. I once went sledding on a Sunday near Gary and had to drive through downtown. It was a total ghost town and a local bank had its front window smashed and a loud alarm was ringing, literally echoing down the nearby streets. We continued on, went sledding, and a couple hours later on our way back through Gary the alarm was still going off. Nobody in sight. It was effing surreal. Howdy, I'm from Canada. Going off of a hunch here, but probably the ice islands between the Beaufort Sea and Greenland. It's Canada's northernmost point and is comprised of melting ice caps, frequent blizzards, lack of vegetation, and a whole lot of nothing for hundreds of miles, except for a few rocket detecting satellite towers that were meant to inform our neighbors the US of potential nuclear attacks during the Cold War. Australia, the effing outback dude. Like, people comprehend the distances, but they don't comprehend the desolation. There is nothing out there. Europe. To go between Darwin and Alice Springs is in the same state in Australia. In Europe, you drive across 8 effing countries in the same distance. In America, that distance will cover 8 states and about 40 cities. In Australia you go through 8 towns that are really only a pub and a fuel station. People don't realize that when there is a sign that says 600 kilometers to the next fuel, it means there are 600 effing kilometers until the next fuel. It's not 600 until the next big stop, next big town. It's 600 until you will see another living soul. Another 600 until you see anything even approximating civilization. It's 45+ degrees Celsius out there in the day, but at night it can get down to 5 degrees Celsius. You travel through the outback. You have a spare tire, you have water, you have sleeping gear, you have a first aid kit, and these days, you take an emergency GPS locator beacon. It's not something you F with, it's a standard drive, but you take what you need to survive, every single time. I've done the drive from Darwin to the rest of Australia and back 4 times now. I have been lucky nothing went wrong. No tires, no engines, nothing. But I did hit a wedge-tailed eagle and snapped a 6 feet fiberglass UHF aerial clean in half. Boom. My comms were gone. My friend hit a refine cow in a VW Amarok. It tore the bull bar off, went over the roof, and hit the tailgate so hard it ripped the tub off his ute excepting one bolt. I've seen a camel just straight up kill a T909 Kenworth hauling a triple road train. Just F the radiator up so bad that it hit the front of the engine and snapped the main pulley off the crankshaft. And if something happens, you need an out. You need some way of getting in contact with civilization. Because if you don't, you die. That's it. You're dead. You die. Alone. Helpless. Scared. In the middle of nowhere. The outback terrifies me. I've had cancer twice, and I still pack heavy with supplies if going into the outback, because it's scarier than cancer.